in that context, I just wanted to recommend this to Bulgarian promoters when they decide to have a festival, that the most important thing is not the headliner. I mean, we booked a very interesting festival called Off Festival, again in Poland, which is consisted only from MySpace bands, and it has a huge success. So promoters should develop many other creative ways how to get and reach audience and make a successful events.
I fully agree with you on that. We certainly find that in the UK market, where it's extremely competitive, there's an estimate of around 700-800 festivals that take place in the UK each year. And to create that point of difference, to create an event which it's like a holiday rather than just going to see some bands in a field with your friends, that is what makes many festivals successful. They have this completely... it's not necessarily just about the music. People will go because it's a beautiful location, or they get to do something completely wild. You know, it's about escapism, and I think that's why, despite the economic crisis, festivals are continuing to do well, even though perhaps the concert market is struggling a bit. Certainly in the UK, I think that's what we're finding today. That's your impression.
Yeah, the other thing that's interesting, I mean, with The Great Escape, we very much copied Eurosonic. We did it with worldwide bands from all around the world. We have a lot of bands from Canada and Australia and so on. So we took that basic model. In our case, we have something like 30 venues, 300 bands, you have one wristband, you go around the town. Well, when we started out 6 years ago, there was an event in London called Camden Crawl that was kind of sort of, didn't have an industry side to it, but that same thing. Anyway, the point being is now, I think there's about 15 of these events now in the UK. So every city has got some sort of version, maybe not with the same focus on the music industry, the South by Southwest thing. And some of them might only have 4 clubs. But and people do like going to see new bands, and they are really cheap events to put on, because obviously the club owners love it because they're full, and that's something that I don't know where the main universities are in Bulgaria, but that's sort of there's no reason why you can't have 4 or 5 of those, and of course those events take place in the winter as well. So that festival season now is the whole year round, and most of them are about new bands, aren't they? And people like it. I mean, it's a worldwide. So there were hardly any now. So virtually every major UK city has one. I spend virtually every other weekend this year going to events, well, like this with more bands playing.
Yeah, in Denmark. So I'm from Denmark, and we have the Spot Festival there, and I'm representing the Spot here. And we started out as a really, really small festival, only for actually the bands from the city, unknown bands from the city of Aarhus, which is 250,000. There lives 250,000 people there. So it was really, really small. We started out with 20 bands playing in 2 days, and during the years we developed. They were doing showcases, and people were invited from the business, managers, booking agents, record companies, and it increased and got more and more successful. Like suddenly, it was not only like the city, the band from the city playing; it was bands from the whole country. We had plus 100 people, 100 bands suddenly started playing. It got more and more attention, and we started to invite people from the international markets as well, like journalists, etc. And the crowd developed as well. It was, in the beginning, it was like maybe a few hundred people there, and now it's like we sell like 4,000 people buy tickets for 120 unknown bands. There, and even though for me as a guy working in the business, many of the bands are unknown. I've never heard about them before. Many of them, like maybe 10 or 15% of them, play their first concerts actually at the Spot Festival. So not only for people coming from abroad to check out the Danish bands or the Scandinavian bands playing there, it's a new experience. It's also for me actually going there. There's a lot of the bands that I never heard about, which the bookers find, we make a selection. People can apply for it, like bands can apply, and we have like around 1,200 bands applying. It's mainly Scandinavian acts because it is a Scandinavian showcase festival, but we also have like, after we started being more international, of course we bring in bands as well. We invite bands from abroad as well. So it's
and there's now a little circuit because you're about a week apart from us, aren't you?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And it's in May. We do
more, and there's there in Barcelona. There's 2 weeks later.
You can go around. Like you can tour the whole year. You can actually tour for these showcase festivals, and it's very interesting. What really happened? What was the breaking point at the Spot Festival? Going from a national thing to being an international festival with a lot of focus from journalists and the business, international business, was 10 years ago, where we invited an American journalist called from Rolling Stones magazine, Dave Fricke, and he found this band called Ravenettes. Maybe some of you know the band, and that was really like he was like blown away by it. I was standing next to him. I remember like this guy, and he's a really characteristic guy, like he looks like a member of the Ramones or something like that. And he was just like blown away by almost like every concert, but especially this concert with the Ravenettes. And it was one of their first concerts they ever played together. There was like it was quality musicians. They've been playing in other bands before, but this was one of their first concerts. And he like immediately wrote about them in the Rolling Stones magazine. They got signed by a big deal. Scott, who's there. It's the first time I meet him here in Sofia, but he's the manager of the Ravenettes actually. And that's a great story about unknown Danish bands who suddenly they're touring around the world now. They're bigger. They're bigger outside of Denmark than they are in Denmark. When they play in Denmark, they play a tour now in the coming month, and they can do like 4 gigs in Denmark. But when they can play 100. I don't know if Scott can tell how many gigs they have when they go on tour in the States, but they're bigger in the States than they are in Denmark, and that's what we do. That's what a showcase festival can do, and that's our focus at the Spot Festival. We want to present, we want to develop music talent from our domestic area, that's from Denmark, but we want to present it for internationally. And we have like, this year we had like 300 people, business people coming from, journalists, everything, writing about the Spot Festival. And it's, we have great success with doing this. And we actually started like really, really small scale, like presenting like 10 bands or 20 bands. And it takes a lot of time. It's been taking 15 years, and then you invite people, like it would be a great idea to do for the CME Festival as well, to connect with, do a small showcase, because you have like guys like Martin, you have guys like me, and a lot of other people like Scott. There are a lot of we're here, so
and try and get cut off some bands from neighbouring countries as well.
Yeah, exactly. We're always curious about. That's why we're here. We're curious to know about what's the scene is like here. So discovering new stuff.
I would normally go and see 10 bands at least in one night.
The same thing here, and it's so.
And they're really. I'd say they're really good events for you to go to as musicians and managers. Obviously, they cost you money. Generally speaking, you don't get paid, fees at these events. But even if you go, well, actually, we're not very good compared to all these other bands. That's kind of worth knowing about. But also making contact with bands who are similar to you in other countries. So you can go and stay on their floors when you're doing tour. That's all popular, because these days, there isn't a record label out there to pay your bills for the next 3 years. You've got to generate your own sort of lifestyle.
Like our showcase festival is really, we're very lucky because we get subsidized by the government, because they say like this is important. It's important not only for music but also for business in general. It's important. It's like we get money from not from the we get money from the Art Council, but we also get money from the export, like the foreign affairs, because it's interesting, like for having journalists to come and write. They don't not only write about Danish music, they write about, maybe they went to an exhibition during the daytime, like, and suddenly they start to write about Denmark is a nice place, go there, like. I think there was a journalist saying 1 or 2 years ago, like, forget Glastonbury, go to Denmark, and that's probably not the but that's a headliner, like, and he put it in the Mojo magazine, which is a big magazine in Britain, and so it caught people interest,
I prefer these city-based festivals now.
Yeah, me myself.
I spent 30 years going to that ones in fields, so I think yeah. And the other thing I think is relevant is because there's most European countries have a music export office that helps bands go to these events and helps market them and helps pay their costs. And so that's, if you don't have one in Bulgaria, which is that right? Weirdly enough, we don't have one in the UK, but it's worthwhile getting all your industries together to try to. I mean, the one in Finland was one of the best in the world, I think, actually. That started off just as about 10 key players in Finland saying, okay, let's all club together and pay one person got a full-time wage, just go and do stuff. Yeah, but that would really help your country.